My name is Tate Nurkin, and I'm the Managing Director of the Aerospace Defense and Maritime Consulting Team at IHS. So the Aerospace Defense and Maritime Consulting Team at IHS has developed a framework for helping ourselves and our clients better understand emerging security environments and also to anticipate some emerging threats and challenges and opportunities. It's built around 6 very broadly categorized big picture drivers, the first of which is challenges to state sovereignty and to changes to the political geography of the international system. The idea behind this is that states are increasingly challenged to manage and control the territory, resources, populations, and institutions within their borders. It's not just Somalia and failed and failing states. It is states that were previously believed to be and currently believed to be stable and sovereign. Ultimately, we think that this particular driver will create new dimensions of the international system, whether they be de jure or de facto, and then these new dimensions will require new maps. The second driver is that more actors have the capability to affect strategic and operational landscapes, from global powers and regional powers to niche actors, transnational organizations, corporate entities, galvanizing personalities, all the way down to technologically or media savvy and ideologically imbued individuals. This obviously creates a much more diverse threat spectrum for national security planners and corporate security officers to address. The third driver is that these actors are increasingly in command of more and better capabilities, the result of 3 types of proliferation that we track. Obviously, when most people hear proliferation, they immediately go to nuclear or weapons of mass destruction proliferation, which is an urgent and emotional issue, and one that is particularly important if you're in the Gulf region or in Northeast Asia. But we feel that 2 other types of proliferation may be more common and more practical for analysts to also track and observe. The first is the proliferation of advanced military technologies, and clearly this happens through illicit networks, but it also happens increasingly through licit means. The leverage in the global defense industry has shifted as budgets in the West have gone down and budgets in emerging markets have gone up, and increasingly emerging markets are demanding that technology transfer be part of large procurements. So for Western primes and defense contractors to play in this increasingly competitive market, they need to transfer sensitive technologies that once were reserved for their home markets. The other type of proliferation that we really spend a lot of time looking at is the proliferation of dual-use technologies. These are technologies that have ostensibly commercial purposes, but can easily be used in novel ways to create security threats and challenges. It can be as simple as a cell phone or certain types of software, and obviously there are strong regimes in place to monitor this, but they're not always enforced to the same degree. Again, creating an intelligence challenge that is quite pronounced. The fourth driver is globalization and the information revolution. Globalization is obviously a very important driver of security environments, and it affects security environments by enabling proliferation, by ensuring that economic winners and losers are created, or at least the perceptions of economic winners and losers, which can amplify some of the societal and political challenges that states face. But I think most importantly and fundamentally, globalization affects security environments by ensuring that crises radiate out, frequently very rapidly, to well beyond the state or region where they emanated from. So a real estate and investment crisis in New York can quickly turn into a global financial crisis within days or weeks due to the interlinkages of the global economies. In addition, a grocer in Tunisia can self-immolate, and that fire spreads across the Middle East and turns into the Arab Spring. Crises spread in large part because of the information technologies to which we now have access. John F. Kennedy said at the start of the space race that space science, like nuclear science and all technology, has no conscience of its own, and he's right. The internet is neutral. It does allow us to connect in ways that we thought impossible even 15 or 20 years ago, and to do business at the speed of a mouse click, but it also creates enormous vulnerabilities that are being exploited on a daily basis at a national level and in large multinational corporations, and are now taking up more and more resources to combat these threats and challenges. Number 5 is defense and security in an age of austerity. And really, so much of the press is about declining defense budgets in North America and Europe, and that is an important trend to note. But the flip side of that trend is the defense budgets in the Gulf and Southeast and East Asia and Latin America are all on the rise. And this has created two big implications that we monitor. First, a more diverse threat spectrum is being met with fewer resources in the West. Not universally, but in large part that has been the case. Secondly, there's more investment in certain niche capabilities, particularly maritime capabilities in Southeast Asia, missile defense in the Gulf, that can enable different types of geopolitical relationships and partnerships. So if Western powers are unable to project power to the same degree they once were, they can increasingly rely on their partners in region who now have more money to spend on the capabilities that are important to the security and stability of a given region and regional security environment. The sixth driver is resource competition and environmental strain and degradation. Probably doesn't take a real expert to note that competition for energy resources is driving national security strategies in a fundamental way. So too are competitions for certain minerals, for food, for arable land. And these are things that are really starting to impact national security strategies at the highest level. But I think what probably has been lost is the impact of environmental strain, degradation, and climate change on national security strategy and defense missions. Environmental issues are intensifying challenges to state sovereignty. It's driving migration, which is perhaps complicating societal issues. It is also creating new defense missions. And for the first time over the last probably 5 to 10 years, militaries are beginning to understand that these missions need to be addressed systematically. And the testing and evaluation of equipment that now needs to frequently operate in harsher environments is critical. So too is mitigating the environmental footprint of militaries who are massive consumers of energy resources. Most importantly, it means that future security environments and specific threats and challenges will be very difficult to anticipate and very difficult for us to assess the intensity, trajectory, and pace of these threats and challenges. But I think at a more specific level, there are at least a couple of characteristics of these environments that are worth noting. The first is that in this environment, it's very difficult to understand who has what capabilities and how they might use these capabilities. This has, I think, very important implications for deterrence and dissuasion strategy. Secondly, I think that the information landscape in this environment is incredibly complex. There is a lot of information available to national security planners, to intelligence officers, to corporate security officers. Understanding what is true or good and what is noise is a very difficult task that every day becomes more difficult, especially if you're focused on the open source landscape. And to be perfectly blunt, what is quote-unquote true may not be as important as the perceptions of what is going on in a particular environment, which can be easily influenced by individuals or other outside actors. So I think the result of this is that you have an exceptionally broad security landscape that needs to be addressed and a difficult information landscape to understand exactly what information you need to collect and how you assess it.